Boys and girls, we are on lesson 2.5 and we are going to be estimating with two-digit divisors. We're going to start at the top of the page by the essential question, which is how can you use compatible numbers to estimate quotients? So we're going to connect, boys and girls. Keep in mind this is going to help you because you've done this before in multiplication. You are going to estimate quotients using compatible numbers that are found by using basic facts and patterns. So we're going to look down here at this first example. Boys and girls, if you can see, 35 divided by 5 is equal to 7, and we know that the related multiplication fact to that is 7 times 5 is equal to 35. So that'd be a way to just check ourselves. We can go back to using inverse operations and multiplication in this case if we needed to. So boys and girls, we're going to go on to the second example. 350 divided by 50 would be 7, because we know that 7 times 50 equals 350. Again, 3,500 divided by 50 would be 70. We can check that by using multiplication because 70 times 50 is 3,500. Lastly, 35,000 divided by 50, boys and girls, would be 700 because 700 times 50 equals 35,000. So you're going to see some patterns that we use with multiplication in here, and I'm also going to do a common error problem at the end just to clarify some things to make sure that everyone's on track and feels confident. So boys and girls, we're going to stop down at the unlock the problem real world. The observation deck of the Willis Tower in Chicago, Illinois is 1,353 feet above ground. Elevators lift visitors to that level in 60 seconds. About how many feet do the elevators travel per second? So on the side we see that the Willis Tower was formerly known as the Solis Tower, and it is the tallest building in the United States, and it's in our home city, which is pretty cool. So boys and girls, we're going to estimate this problem. We are going to take the dividend divided by the divisor. So it says use two sets of compatible numbers to find out two different estimates. So the first set we used for compatible numbers was 1,200 divided by 60. And then in our second set of compatible numbers, we did 1,800 divided by 60. And some boys and girls might say, Miss G, I have no idea how you came up with that compatible number. Boys and girls, keep in mind our basic fact. 12 divided by 6, and our basic fact over here, 8 divided by 6. We know that 12 divided by 6 is 2, and we know that 18 divided by 6 is 3. So that basic fact can help us do larger compatible numbers in our head. So we have two problems here. We have this problem and this problem. This is our low estimate. Write down low estimate here, and this is our high estimate. So this is our high estimate. What we're going to do now is we're going to try to figure out which one of these is a better approximation of our problem. So for step 2, boys and girls, we're going to go on and we are going to use basic patterns and basic facts to help us estimate. So we have 12 divided by 6, and we know that that answer is 2, and we can use it and check inverse operations. 2 times 6 is equal to 12. Next, boys and girls, we go on to the next problem. 120 divided by 60 is also 2, boys and girls. This is something that we want to pay attention to here because a lot of students will want to write down 0 because they're going to be thinking of multiplication. Keep in mind, boys and girls, that when you have the factor 2 and you multiply by the factor 60, your answer is 120. Notice if the factor had 1 0, the product had 1 0. But we're not doing multiplication, we're doing the opposite. So we're actually going to be decreasing the amount of zeros that we have in our quotients, not increasing them like we would have if we were getting a product and doing a multiplication problem. So let's look at the bottom one, 1,200 divided by 60. For that answer, we know it is 20. So now we're going to use the same kind of relationships and help us over here on the side with the other problems. So we have 18 divided by 6, and we know the answer to that is 3, and we could check it. 3 times 6 equals 18. Now we're going to follow the same pattern that we had here. So we're going to have 18, and we're going to add a 0, so we have 180, and we're going to do 180 divided by 60 because we're following the same pattern that we did in the first problem. And we get 3. Next, boys and girls, we go on to the last problem, which would be 1,800. Notice we just add one more 0, and we're going to divide that by 60, and we get the answer of 30. So, boys and girls, we are ready to answer our problem. The elevator travels about 20 to 30 feet per second. We can see that because those are the two quotients that we got when we did two estimates. However, boys and girls, the more reasonable estimate is 1,200 divided by 60 is equal to 20 because 1,200 is much closer to 1,335 than 1,800 is. So, the observation deck elevators at the Willis Tower travel about 20 feet per second. And notice, this is all just an estimate. We're going to go on to our next problem. If you need to pause at this time, you can, but we're going to go on into our next problem, which was our example about estimating money. And this is an interesting situation, so keep note of the situation here because we want to make sure that we're clearly understanding how to interpret an estimation. So we're going to start here, boys and girls. Miriam has saved $650 to spend during her 18-day trip to Chicago. She doesn't want to run out of money before the trip is over, so she plans to spend about the same amount each day. Estimate how much she can spend each day. So this is our actual problem, boys and girls, but we're going to make an estimate. So we're going to estimate 650 down to a lower estimate of 600, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out how we can solve this. Well, boys and girls, we can use compatible numbers. If we know 6 divided by a number is equal to 3, we can figure out pretty quickly that that number would be 2. So, boys and girls, if we use compatible numbers, we can say that 20 is our missing divisor because we know 600 divided by 20 is equal to $30 a day. However, boys and girls, if we use inverse operations, we can just check to make sure our answer makes sense. So we have $30 times 20 equals 600. So we know that we are correct. So boys and girls, now that we've done our first low estimate, we are going to do a high estimate. So if we look over here at this problem, we're going to do another compatible number problem. We're going to say to ourselves, well, what number divided by 2 is going to give me 4? And what I just did, boys and girls, was I just dropped the 0 and the 2 and the 0 and the 4 to make a compatible, smaller, basic fact. Because this compatible number, the larger one, we want to make a basic fact. So, boys and girls, we know pretty quickly that 2 is that number. So, if 2 divided by 2, oh, I'm sorry, boys and girls, I meant to say 8. I'm a little loopy. This cough medicine is not making me feel so great. It should be 8 divided by 2 is 4. So, boys and girls, that means that $800 divided by $20, $800 divided by 20 is equal to $40. And we can check using multiplication. Is 40 times 20 800? Yes. So what we can say, boys and girls, is that Miriam spent about $30 to $40 each day. However, we want to keep in mind, boys and girls, would it be more reasonable to have an estimate for or an exact answer for this particular example? Now, if we think about Miriam's situation, she saved money to go on a trip. If we look down here and it's asking us which estimate do you think is better for her use, well, we would have to say that the lower estimate was better for her. The reason why you should use, I'm going to write down that she should use the estimate of $30 a day is because if she uses the larger estimate, she'll run out of money on her trip. And we definitely don't want that to happen to her when she's on her trip. Sorry, boys and girls, that screen just flipped back and forth. So the larger amount is, if you look, $800. $800 is more than what she saved. She's only saved $650 for her trip, so we would definitely want to use the lower estimate for how much money she should spend each day. So boys and girls, we are going to do two last little problems here, and then I'm going to do a quick error analysis problem. This says find two estimates. So in class today, we didn't get to this yet, but if we looked at this problem, we could say that we could estimate our dividend to be 400 divided by 50, and then we could also say a little bit higher, 450 divided by 50. And the reason we know is that if we have the smaller basic fact of 40 divided by 5, we could solve that pretty quickly. And if we had 45 divided by 5, we can solve that pretty quickly. We can use that basic fact to help us build up a larger problem. We knew that 45 divided by 50 would be 8, and we know that 45 divided by 50 would be 9. So because we know these basic ones, we could figure out the larger ones. So if we had 40 divided by 50, boys and girls, we would get the answer of 8. And if we had 450 divided by 50, we would get the answer of 9. And if we check to use multiplication, we would see that 50 times 8 would give us 400, which is our dividend and our estimate. And then 45 times 9 would give us 450, which was our second estimate in our answer. So now, boys and girls, we have our last problem over here, which is about money. And we have 38 divided by 2,764. So right off the back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the divisor and I'm going to make the divisor 40. And the reason why I'm making it 40 is because it's easier for my head to compute it. It's a compatible number. I like it better. So I'm going to think about my multiples of 4, and I know that 27 is a multiple of 4, so 2,700 must be a multiple of 40. So boys and girls, if I think about my basic fact that I have here, I really have 27 divided by 4. And I know that 27 divided by 4 is, oh, I'm sorry. Ugh. I'm sorry. I'm really not feeling well. Ugh. This should have been 28, boys and girls, and this should have been 28 as well, because 4 times 7 is 28. So 4 times 7 is 28. We know we can check our answer. 28 divided by 4 must be then 7, because 7 times 4 is 28. We can build this basic fact into our compatible numbers to figure out the larger division problem that we have here. So $2,800 divided by 40 would be $70. And if you were like, well, Miss G, I want to make sure that it's correct, I would say use multiplication to check your answer. So if we use multiplication to check our answer, we would get $2,800, which was what we wanted to get. So boys and girls, I wanted to finish up with this common error. So the common error that a lot of students have, that I have experienced in the past, is that they take a basic fact, which we can see here as 8 divided by 2 is equal to 4, and we can check that. 4 times 2 indeed is 8. The inverse operation, multiplication, undoes the division. So when students build that into a compatible number, what they'll say is 80 divided by 20, and they'll say is equal to 40. But we know that this is not correct. And one way that we know that this is not correct and that they didn't extend it correctly is we can use inverse operations to check the reasonableness of our answer. So if we look at the first one, we can say 4 times 2. Is that indeed 8? Yes. We took the quotient, we multiplied it by the divisor, and we got the dividend. So let's check for the second problem here. 40 times 20. Does that equal 80? Well, let's look here. 40 times 20 does not equal 80, boys and girls. It actually equals 800. And as we notice and we compare, our dividend is not 800. So this answer is not correct. So when the student was doing this, they have to keep in mind that 80 divided by 20 is actually going to be 4 boys and girls, because 20 times 4, our multiplication fact that would check, would give us 80, which is our product in that multiplication problem, in our dividend in our original problem. I hope that helped everybody, and I hope if there's any questions, people use the comments section, and I will see you soon, boys and girls. Bye.